Marianne Solivan is a jazz vocalist known for her rich tone, soulful delivery, and fearless improvisation. She's performed with some of the top musicians in jazz, including Christian McBride, Jeremy Pelt, and Peter Bernstein, captivating audiences with her dynamic stage presence. With multiple album releases, including Prisoner of Love, she brings a fresh yet classic approach to jazz vocals. Whether leading her own groups or collaborating with renowned artists, she continues to make a powerful impact on the jazz scene, and we're looking forward to speaking with her today. So good to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for the invitation. It's good to see you as well.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. I have to be honest, I'm a little biased as an instrumentalist, but if I ask a jazz vocalist to speak with me, that means that they're doing something, remarkable. Because I think you're only the
Oh,
second vocalist I've had on the podcast.
wow. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, I understand the bias. So,
And there's not I love singers, but yeah, and so just so you know, this is something special for me as well. So I know you were just in Europe. You were in France. So so talk to me about what you were doing over there, the performances and everything like that. So we'd love to hear about it.
sure. So, I just got back from being in France for the whole month of January. Years ago, actually, 17 years ago, I happened upon doing an audition for a theatrical production that was being put on at the American Repertory Theater out of Harvard, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, when I was living there. And I was very hesitant to go. I had no idea what it was about, but a bass player had asked me to come. And it ended up being a guitar, bass, and voice audition for a new production of Julius Caesar, the straight Shakespeare play, by a wonderful French director who was being commissioned to put on a new production in 2008. And I got the gig, and it's been 17 years of on and off performing in this production, all over, a lot in France. We've gone all over France, but we've also done a little bit of the US after we did the Boston run. And then we also were in California and Michigan in 2019. And Colombia. I always forget about, how could I forget about Colombia? But so it's a straight play. It's Shakespeare. It's Shakespeare in English, um, fully done stage play with a jazz trio on stage, sort of musically a la Julie London, which is a little outside of my like professional singing career lane, but we have a lot of fun with that music. And so we are on stage pretty much throughout like 60% of the production, and we act kind of as the Greek chorus would have acted, as respite, as commentary on the play, as comedy against the play. So it's a really interesting, very hip thing. So we just did it for a month in France in two locations, and I'm actually going back in 2 weeks to do it again outside of Paris,
How
to
many
finish.
shows are there in that month? Like, is it
What
you
did we
know,
do? We did 16 or 17, 17 performances, and it's a 3.5 hour long play. So it's pretty mind blowing that this production not only has been able to live for so many years and continue to be brought back, but that the French public love it. We have French subtitles, but because it's all in English, but that they manage it, that they manage 3.5 hours of Shakespeare in verse. So it's not like we've made it modern in terms of the word, and they love it. Like we had pretty much sold out audiences the whole entire time at these two theaters, that were between 500 and 700 seat, and massive like ovations at the end. Like there wasn't one night that wasn't so well received that it's very it's a very interesting
I mean, do you want
and
to go back? Like, are you excited to go back and do it again? Or
oh my God, I love it. It's been, again, it's 17 years of my life that I've been in this play, and I've never missed a performance so far, all these years that they bring it back and we go on tour again. I love it. I think it's one of the most highly artistic, beautiful, just it's a group of people with the director who always show up at the height of their artistic ability, at the height of their committing to the project. The camaraderie is amazing. There's about 16 of us all together in the whole cast. Um, It's absolutely thrilling. I mean, I'm as surprised as anybody else. I mean, we play 8 songs. And so we have a bit of leeway in terms of how we deliver the song, but it's theater. Like you have to do it. We only have a chorus and a half on each of these songs. So it's not at all like what I do on stage for my own personal musical career. But it is so beautifully done and so highly artistic that I love it. Like I will give up a lot of other things to make sure when they call me to say that we're going back to do it. It's an exceptional production. It
So that comes like that's like, that takes doing that show takes precedent over other things almost like when you
Yes, I mean, again, we do it like the last time we performed it, it was 2019. Prior to that, I think it was 2.5 years. So it's not like we do it often, and we might only do it for a month and a half, or 2 months or something like that. So this tour got broken up. So we did a month, and we're going to go back for 2 weeks at a different theater. But it's become something that's so precious to me and important. And I always feel like I'm being treated like a real artist. I'm able to express myself as a real artist, and I'm surrounded by people who are all in the same energy.
I mean, we
And
don't hear artists say things like this too much. So, that's amazing that, you're able to get the treatment and do what you want to do artistically. It's like that's the apex of things. I mean, when I was actually just in France, so and they have such a rich jazz scene and amazing clubs, that sort of thing. Like, do you go hear music when you're over there at all? Just or did you decompress? You just kind of like,
no, as much as possible. And I will just say honestly that in tours past, I think I probably was a little bit more energetic. This tour was like, I'm tired. Like we rehearsed for very long hours. The show itself is so long. I didn't get to see as much music this time, though we did hit a jam session in Rennes on the first half, which was so much fun, and saw a band there of young students because there's a conservatory in Rennes, in Brittany. So we went there and then sat in, which was fun. But in Lyon, our days off and our days were like any day that we had off for the evening, the clubs were closed. So I didn't get to see music, which really was a little sad because Lyon has a huge, rich history of lots of great music and lots of great jazz clubs. So I was a little sad not to be able to do it that time. But in the past, oh yes, no, we try to hang as much as possible. And now the next one that we're doing, which is right outside of Paris, we should be able to get back and forth into Paris. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to like go and say hello to some of my French friends and see some music down, the Duc de Lombard and Sunset, and all that.
so are you still, teaching during this time, like this semester, so to speak, or are you taking a break?
Yes. Yes, I was actually on sabbatical last semester because I kind of thought that this tour would happen during the fall. Because 2 years ago, when they started planning it, we thought it would happen in the fall. So I was on sabbatical for the fall. But yeah, I missed a little teaching up at my university job, and have literally jumped 100% back in since the day I got back. So it's been intense. And this semester, I think, will be a little bit more intense for making up, the lessons that I missed. But
Well, what's that schedule like at the university, like as far as, the number of, students and everything?
so I am a full-time tenure track over at Syracuse University. I teach in person.
Syracuse Orange.
Yes, that's right. I teach in person 3 days a week, generally Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I have a full vocal studio, and then I do an ensemble as well. And usually the general vibe is that I either drive or fly up on Monday mornings and drive and fly home on Wednesday nights. So that's been what I've been doing up there for I'm in my 6th year. So that's the general vibe. On Thursdays and Fridays, I could just do admin work at home and do what I need to do for my computer. But
Was that, as jazz musicians, getting a job in the university, it does become a priority for a lot of musicians, if they want to do this music. Was that always something that was like at the top of your list of things you wanted to do, or did you just kind of like stumble into that job?
oh Jesus, we're getting into the meat of it now. Um, I, I I have to be honest, no, it was absolutely not uh, in any way a goal or dream or a wish or anything. I have a master's degree. So that I say that to mean that when you get your master's degree, I feel like everyone in the academy is telling you, well, now you can teach, and now you can teach in a university, and now you can teach. And even though I have a master's degree in jazz studies, right?
The irony, let me just say, people don't
Yes.
understand the irony. Like I
Hmm.
got my master's at NYU and they let you teach the non-music students, while you get your master's to help pay for it.
Yeah.
And then they like, you're on your own.
Yeah.
The irony of that, right?
Yes.
It's crazy.
And also just like I went to the New England Conservatory for my master's, and I went to Berkeley for my undergrad, and you would think that folks who are inside that level of jazz and musical training at that level would really be pushing for you to go be an artist. And yet all the signs were like, go, now you can get your teaching job. So I actually ran very far away from teaching, especially full time, for a very long time. I had a number of adjunct positions, which were perfectly fine with me, that kind of kept me afloat. But an amazing blessing. Right before COVID in 2019, I got the adjunct position up at SU, which was at a perfect time. I had been touring and doing a lot of really amazing musical work, but had sort of found myself in a financial hole, which I was like, oh, geez, I need to figure this out. And this job fell in my lap. It was like, okay, I will go up to SU and do the adjunct position. And that same semester, they opened a full-time tenure track position.
Oh, so it was like you went in as an adjunct and then this just kind of happened.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I just want to be clear because this is, I think, really misunderstood by so many. An adjunct position will never turn into a tenure track or a full-time position. But once a track is opened and you can apply and there's a national search, then you have to apply against anybody and everybody else who might be applying. So I did, and that all was happening at the beginning of 2020. So the blessing of this job is that I actually got notified of getting the full-time tenure track job on March 11th, 2020. Like
Um,
as the world was in chaos, signed my contract on the 17th, the day that New York like fully shut down. So it was definitely not what I was looking for. It wasn't what I thought I wanted. It was something that really I was quite conflicted about, but then it was, thank God. I mean, I'm so grateful
yeah,
that,
you're happy there now, it sounds like.
yeah. And it saved my life because, I was on tour in Europe when I got the job, and when COVID hit and I had to get off tour to come home, and because, the whole, you know, all these restrictions happened. Nobody knew what was happening, so I flew back. And, as you know, within moments, it's like your whole calendar of all your performances, everything just went away,
Yeah.
just
I mean, I had the biggest year
disappeared.
scheduled for 2020, and then it was like, it looked great on this, like, you know, flyer thing. And then it was just like, it was gone. It was just
Yeah, yeah.
sad.
I just remember going into my Google Calendar, just deleting every day, deleting like, oh, that's not happening. Delete, take it off the calendar. So, I mean, I am utterly grateful that this came when it did, and I'm grateful that I have great students. Like our students are so, I tell them all the time, and I mean it absolutely sincerely. I would hang with them. I would have dinner with them. I would invite them to my house. Like they're good eggs. Like they really, work hard and are good people.
When you were during COVID, were you doing like the outdoor gigs, like right away, in
Not
2020?
not right away. So I live in Brooklyn. I live right outside of Prospect Park, on the like QB train line for those New Yorkers listening. Um, It was probably the first, later this, like early summer, late spring of the first year of COVID, that my dear friend, do you know Alex Terrier?
Saxophone,
Saxophone?
alto
Yeah,
player.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a dear, dear friend and was my neighbor at the time, here in Brooklyn. And he called me with our other friend who lives down the street, Steve Wood, to go play in the park. And I was freaked out like you don't understand. And we started playing in the park like pretty regularly, in the trees, like acoustic, voice, bass, and alto. And started doing that. And I tell you, that saved my life. That saved me, like absolutely. I would have been in the depths of massive depression.
Oh, so you guys were
Had
in the park regularly doing this, like,
Yeah,
or
we probably did it 3 or 4 times a week. I mean, we just, it was all for all of us. It was just like a lifeline. Like, how do you get out of the house? How do you get out? I mean, I live alone. They were both with their partners at the time, but all of us just needed to exit the house and make music. Like, we were so accustomed to playing so many gigs and always being out that, these months already by then, by late May, early June of being in quarantine at home, were just affecting us all very, very intensely and differently. So I know for me, it was like that phone call just was like a lifeline. Like, I
Yeah, and
can't.
I also do think that when people went back to hearing music, like almost like there was such a right away there was like this appreciation, like that there wasn't. I don't know if it's in my head or not, but I just feel like people like it was like they were high just to be out at a restaurant or just you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we felt that a lot. I mean, in the park, we would play on this little grassy knoll with all these trees behind us, like 10 feet away from each other, and folks would just show up and put their blankets down and be like, "Oh my God, can we tip you? Can we?" And we weren't out there to make money. We were just out there to like, please, Lord, don't take this away from us, like that energy. And we had people showing up. I still have people in my neighborhood who are like, "Oh my God, you're the girl who was singing in the park. That was
Wow.
amazing." Like, it was so that I think that that response, and I wish that response lasted longer, by the way. I wish that that appreciation for music had lasted longer, but I felt that too.
No, and it was going back. I mean, slowly but surely, people forget what it was like and everything. But that's fine. When you started um, performing, as a band leader, do you remember like the first few gigs and who you played with, and like in New York and what it was like because it's just the energy and everything. Like, can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Sure. Yes, my first few gigs in New York were pretty comical. I had been playing a lot in Boston, like a lot. I had been at like 5 to 7 gigs as a leader a week for like 5 years.
Whoa.
So I came to New York. I knew I wasn't cocky. I didn't think that like I was so cool, but I was really feeling like I've had some experience. Like, I'm not a newbie. I didn't just, arrive from, whatever college jazz program. And the gigs were terrible. Oh my God, I got my ass handed to me so hard, like so intensely.
And you're
Yeah,
already in it and you're already in it for like 5 years at this point, performing regularly.
yeah. But I mean, it's a different thing. Coming to New York is a whole different thing, and God bless it. It should be. But yeah, I played at Cornelia Street. I don't actually remember who played with me on that gig. All I remember is that it was so clear that I wasn't up to the level. It was so clear that, like, of course, I knew things. Like, I'm not, I mean, I'm a musician. I'm not just a singer. So I knew things. I'm not, but like in terms of like just delivery, in terms of stage stuff, in terms of really adapting to a band that's better than me, and adapting to their fire, like their aliveness, it, I wasn't quite there yet, you
Well,
know?
it's funny you bring up Cornelia Street Cafe because it was such a great place to play music and to hear music. It's almost like, you go onto this into this dark basement. It's very, very narrow, but it's such a special place. Like it's almost like that kind of runs parallel with how like I'm in this new, like it's scary in a sense. You're in a new world.
Yeah. And I mean, the other part of the new world here in New York was that for a while, I was only doing one set, which we were still in the Boston days of 4 sets a night. So one set was like, I haven't even gotten it together yet. Like, I can't even get my juices going before the set's over. That's one. Two, it was a lot of door gigs. So as a new person to New York and just trying to carve out a living, um, knowing that the guys I was playing with were like, no, I have to guarantee, like, you need to guarantee money for us. Like, we don't know who you are. So all of those factors were so intimidating and took a decent amount of time to kind of get used to all of that. Not only, oh my God, like, I need to up my musical game too. Like, I can't be as, you know, people really dug what I was doing in Boston. I was kind of a big deal. And it's like, oh yeah, well, now you got to step it up. Like that, it's not enough,
So it was
you
almost
know.
like you felt like you were at such a high place in Boston, but then you come to New York and it's like, oh, I'm not in the gold, I'm in the bronze or silver or
Oh
something.
no,
It's like,
I'm in the bleachers.
oh, okay.
But you know, and I don't know that I thought I mean, I just worked a lot. In Boston, I just worked all the time. So I thought, okay, well, I must be pretty okay if I work all the time. I have like all these gigs, I run all these jam sessions, I do all this stuff. And I knew like the whole reason for moving to New York was like, I need to get better. I still don't think I'm as good as I know I can get to, right? So but man, it was wild. I used to go to Smoke as my like one jam session a week because I didn't have any more money. So it was like pick one that you like and go there religiously, right? And mainly you go there religiously because maybe they'll stop charging you cover and maybe you'll get a discount on stuff, right? If you become like somebody that they see every week. So I would go there every Monday and inevitably they would push the two or three singers that were there until the very end. So you were there until like 2 o'clock in the morning and then they'd have you sing one song and it just was like the clarity of what I needed to work on was so there for me. And thankfully, most of the musicians that I met at Smoke were super amazing. I could tell for months just watched me and like this broad is here again. Like, but then suddenly I remember the first time, like, I went up to sing my one song and Ugana Okegwo was there. He had played earlier and, you know, was trying not to continue playing. Like, you know how it is. Like, I'm done. My set's done. I'm just gonna hang out now. And I remember whomever was running the session that night was like, "Oh, any bass players in the house?" And he was like, "Oh, I'll play with her." And I remember thinking, "Oh, okay, it's working. It's paying off." That one of the guys who's like a badass wants to is okay at this late in the night to come and play with me. And I knew that that was a turning point for me. Of like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. I'm getting better. I'm committed. I'm dedicated. I'm showing up, and I'm constantly working on this. And then I started playing with a lot of the guys there, which was really where I met like God, almost everybody. Like all the people that I started playing with, all the people on my first record, I met all through being at Smoke. My connection and friendship with Jeremy Pelt all started at Smoke. Like that was a really big part of my like, okay, this is what the community is, and you need to be part of it, and you need to always show up ready to do the work and learn from the community. Like that was a big, big part those nights at Smoke.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also wanted to talk to you about, as a singer working with different rhythm sections because, as you know, there's wonderful musicians and they're amazing improvisers, but when it comes to playing with a singer, you really have to, know how to play in the keys that the singer sings in. So I was kind of curious as an instrumentalist, to what extent, like, does that play a role in like hiring people for you? Like, is it like, do you try, or, do you try to sing in the keys that there's usually played in, or, it's like, I need to find people who can just transpose on the spot. Like, you talked to me a little bit about that.
Sure. I think
This is like an instrumentalist question.
no, I love it. I think it's great. I think that the whole transposition thing I find kind of funny because I think oftentimes we as musicians just think so. I mean, it's hard. Like I'm terrible. I have to accompany with my students, and when I have to transpose on the spot, it's a disaster.
Yeah, I'm horrible at it. I'm
You
trying
know,
my best.
I'm not good at it. But I feel like as folks who want to play with singers, there's a certain number of things in a skill set that I think are necessary. Definitively, transposition is one of them. Now, honestly, there's a certain body of work that I think all of us know rather well, like let's call it the 101, like most notable standards, that I think most people should just be able to transpose those without ever having a chart, I mean, I think we should just know that body of work enough. But even step one being know the work, know the songs. Like if I call day by day, like I can't really have you be like, oh, I don't know that tune. Like I just flat out don't know it. So know the work, understand the body of work that you're trying to be part of. And then, yeah, your ability to transpose is there. Now, once we start playing together, I mean, I'm about bringing charts for what I want to play because I don't want to be
Oh, you don't
limited.
even want to have that conversation. You know what you want to do. Is this
Yeah, I know what I want to do, and I don't want to be limited by your knowledge of the repertoire that we're going to do. So, and I don't particularly live inside of only American songbook repertoire, right? So, like, if I bring in a tune, that was made famous by like actually by Sonny Rollins, but is a vocal tune called "Kiss and Run," that no one sings anymore, but it's a badass tune. I don't want to be limited to whether I could play that in whatever key feels good with me because you don't know that tune. So I'm all about like I'm pretty much bringing you charts. I'm
That's
gonna,
great. Yeah.
so I think sometimes that question about transposition gets to be bigger because the singer either doesn't do charts or doesn't know how to do charts, or maybe doesn't even remember what key they're singing in, which is
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. That's a
it's
good.
like nobody should be guessing that for you.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Like the way like if you have the chart, then it's like that takes away all the.
You see all this?
Yeah, exactly. That's like
Charts.
binders. You can see that.
Charts, arrangements, like I mean, yes, I spent a lot of time doing standards, doing pretty straight ahead material. Love it. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I have nothing but love and respect for it. At this point in my career, in my artistic life, I don't do that many standards at all. I really like to dig really deeply into repertoire and repertoire from a lot of different areas. So as to be able to have that freedom, I need to be able to find the tunes, transcribe them, arrange them, put them in clear and really usable chart form. Because also, I don't really have a lot of time to rehearse often, whether it's time or money or both, because you want to pay people for their time.
Yeah.
So if I can present music that's written out for my band, for people working with me, that is really clear that we could just do a quick talk through, then we're fine. But on the flip side of what you kind of had asked before, for me, the parameters of what I need from folks that I work with, I definitely need you to be a good reader. I need good, like solid sight reading, because I'm probably going to put a lot of charts in front of you of songs you've never heard of. So I need you to be able to read and play rather fast. I'm going to need you to be able to play really inside and also have an element of being able to play a little bit more modern, a little bit more out, because I appreciate that. If for me at this point, if everything was super, straight ahead sounding, it's not going to match what I'm actually looking to do. So I need a kind of a broader harmonic ability. I really need people who can actually play fast. I know I've been burned in this way. I appreciate doing tunes consistently that are like fast, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, like, walking. And you'd be amazed at how many folks, and it's cool. Like, no shade, but I need to be able to call those tempos and know that you can hang and that it's not going to derail. And I need you to be able to play a lot of different feels. So I want you to be pretty well versed in some Latin grooves, definitely in Brazilian grooves. I just want to be free in playing a lot of different grooves. So that's what I'm kind of looking for. And then that you understand the role that you're playing in the band. So especially for pianists, right? It's like, you got to love your role. I mean, I love my role. You got to love your role. Otherwise, we're going to be bumping into each other all the time. And when we both love our roles and try to do our role really great, then the whole thing sounds
I mean, you don't have
fantastic.
to name any names, but have there been times where you've hired somebody who you thought like I can't wait to do this, but then like you play with them and it's like that was a disaster, you know?
Yes, I have one time in particular.
You don't have to name them or
I am
anything.
not going to name names. He's a tremendous pianist, like absolutely masterful. And the time that we got to play, it felt like I felt like a fist fight. It felt
Oh
like,
my God.
so much so that in the break between sets, there was a lot of singers in the house because everybody was like, "Oh my God, you're playing with him? Oh my God, that's so cool." The singers in the house came to me and were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, I don't think I'm okay. This feels
Yeah.
terrible. So yes, I mean, thankfully it hasn't happened often. But because as anyone who knows me will tell you, I'm really picky about the musicians I work with. I am a snobby, picky person. I'm sorry.
Well, you should. I mean, no, I mean, I think you're totally right. It
It's-
should be. You're the voice.
But also, I've been really blessed with playing with some amazing people. I mean, when I got to New York, I played with Michael Kanan for years. Like Michael Kanan's like the Cadillac of like straight ahead like accompaniment for vocalists. I mean, he's just
He's an
tremendous.
amazing pianist.
And then from him, I went and played with Bruce Barth for a number of years. Like, I mean, it's like Xavier Davis for years. He's on my first two records. Hi, welcome to remembering things, right? I mean, I got to play with Peter Bernstein on my first record in the first years that I was in New York. Like these, I was just sort of overwhelmed with greatness at a very beginning that I it was like, okay, I want to keep that going. I don't want to go backwards, I
No,
want to
you set the bar high, and it's like, you have to set the parameters around that right away, and that's amazing. It's such a pleasure to sit and talk to you, and I hope we could do it again.
I hope so. This has been great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. So, social media website, just let us know so we can
Oh, that's right. Plug things. Okay, so I'm Jazz in Mind on like Instagram and TikTok. I think I'm MS Jazz in Mind for Marianne Solivan. But otherwise, MarianneSolivanJazz.com is my website. And I guess I should say that I did release a record with the group that was in the park all through all of that COVID time. We released a record in June called Re-Entry, which is available. And I also just released in January another record with Buster Williams, Brandon McCune, and Jay Sawyer called Breaks Over that just came out on Amani Records, which is Orrin Evans' label, which will be starting all its radio PR like any day now, which I'm excited about. So go get a record, listen to some music, say
no, this
hello.
this was great. You seem so excited about all that stuff coming up. So this is great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me,
Oh,
man. It's
thank
been a
you.
pleasure to talk to you.
Definitely.